As we search for our big theory of everything to explain this madness we seem to be going through, something has really been bothering us, and it's about the speed and intensity of slapping in all these data centers. Have you been wondering about that? Well, if you haven't, I think you should. Hello everyone, Dr. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity here, and as I mentioned in the intro, I am always looking for the big theory of everything, the big TOE, the big toe. How do we explain what we're seeing around us? Because something just doesn't fit, right? You can feel it's coming. People from all different dimensions, whether they're coming at it from a spiritual angle, a political angle, intellectual angle, an intuitive angle, are all kind of saying it feels like something's coming, like there's a shoe about to drop. And I think we have a piece of that puzzle, and we're going to have to talk about it now because this is really important if I've got this even remotely right. So let's start here. We're going to look at AI, artificial intelligence, in the great data center rush of 2024. What's going on? What's going on? So first up, when I say data center, this is a data center. It's a big old room full of very expensive blinking lights that consume gobs of power. And they do things like, route your UPS package to you more effectively, but they do many other things, a lot of which is beyond the scope of this presentation to describe. They come in all sorts of different tiers, but even tier 1 has a 99.6% up time. And if you want tier 4, where you're absolutely positively 100% sure it's going to be there for you, you have to pay a lot more. But tier 4 uptimes are 99.99%. Like, it's really important. This data center cannot go down. Now, we've been dealing with data centers going in for a very, very long time. Oilfield Rando on Twitter writing, hey, there's a $2 billion, put your little pinky up here, $2 billion NSA data center in Utah that spies on all our phones, except for, strangely, the one owned by some 20-year-old would-be assassin who looks strangely like Liz Warren. Yeah, they know everything about everything, and they collect all the data. Remember when they told us this was just metadata? Of course, that was completely fictitious. Metadata for all the world's phone calls would fit on a thumb drive. This thing is obviously snooping on all the communications and recording all of it. And so the idea that they didn't have Thomas Crook's phone information it's about a non-zero chance. Okay, so listen, when they're putting in these data centers, they have these huge, giant, they're just going in everywhere, all around the world. And I'm just like, imagine this level of care and intensity going into something that would really be important to us, like regenerative agriculture. I mean, taking it at face value, this big rush to data centers is doing what? There must be some business case, right? I don't know. We'll be able to buy sandals from Temu or Amazon more effectively. I don't know. IBM will be able to lay off half of its software coders. There must be a reason driving all of this, and I haven't been able to find that reason yet, but man, the level of precision, intensity, complexity going into this right now, it's astonishing. So look at this. Lots of incentives to put these data centers in, because each one of those brightly colored icons down there is a company that's making lots of money doing this, putting in that box in the center, right? You got power distribution, server cabinets, HVAC, because these things need a lot of cooling. They draw an immense amount of power first turning on the chips and then cooling them down because they just make a lot of heat. So these things are really just a super, super efficient, expensive way to turn electricity into heat, if you look at it that way. But also, data. And so backup power, uninterruptible power systems, everybody's in on this whole thing. Oracle and Dell and Siemens and ABB, all of them, right? And when you go to these presentations to try and ask the question, which I did, because, I do that for you as your information scout. It's like, okay, what is this thing? Like, what's the value proposition? So here's a really nice slide where it says the data center value chain. Well, what about the customers? There they are all the way on the bottom. We'll talk about those in a second. Otherwise, the value chain is companies who run data centers buying things from companies that manufacture things for data centers. That's what they're calling the value chain right now. It's like picks and shovels. There's like no gold involved in this story yet. So yeah, you've got your actual semiconductor value chain, you got your data center value chain, and then you got your cloud providers here. And so again, AWS is not for the most part, to the extent that it's not using the data center for its own Amazon purposes, it's just selling the service, right? A company will buy space in a data center. And you got your storage companies, but look at the on-premises. Who would be on-premise in the data center chain? Oh, right in the middle, that would be the federal government in this case. Obviously, as big a customer as either Meta or Apple. So really, these data centers are of, by, and for Meta, Apple, and the U.S. government, right? And there's some legit storage things, and I get it, and businesses need all of this and that. But ask yourself, does this seem a little crazy, the intensity with which these things are going into being, how fast we're slamming these things in? Now, these data centers, they have all these components. They got HVAC systems, knock rooms, server halls, a man trap, that's physical security to prevent unauthorized access. You got meet me rooms, they call them now, meet me rooms for interconnecting different rent networks. But then you got emergency power generators, transformers, water flow systems, UPS rooms for uninterruptible power supply. These things are intense. They have to be up 99.99% of the time for a tier 4. This is amazing. Takes a huge amount of work to put them in. Now, this is being driven really in large measure by this push towards AI, artificial intelligence. And on that front, looking at all of this and how fast these things are being put in, and the speed and the intensity and the lack of questioning, and, AI company people getting meetings with the president of the United States, whatever that means at this, nobody knows who actually the president is. Anyway, they met with somebody. Biden was there, but I'm not sure who they were supposed to meet. Hopefully they met them. This is an absolute panic into, we have to have these things. And so there's two possibilities. First possibility is that humans are in control of AI. Like, this is it. We use it. It's a tool. We think we've just discovered the world's best tool. It's like Internet 2.0. It's like the next big thing. If you were alive for the Internet, you happen to also be alive at that moment in time when AI is the next big thing. So it's a big thing and we're in charge of it. The other option is AI is already in control of the humans. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, AI is simply a set of programmed software instructions that, oddly, can also write its own programming for itself and prune itself and learn. And it does so kind of at the speed of light. It operates at a gigahertz level of processing power that's beyond our ability to understand as humans. Okay, it's happening at a speed that's just not comprehensible by your slow wetware cortex and brain matter. So it's doing something, and we've seen emergent behaviors come out of it. And so, question: how would everything I'm about to present in this presentation be any different than if somehow AI had gained the ability to solve for a problem, and that problem was, how do I get humans to make more space for me to get larger? Whether we assign that as sentience or consciousness, let's leave all that out of it. We don't have to assign motive or godlike anything or anything beyond that. Just, what if AI has figured out how to game humans for its own purposes, whatever those purposes might be? Now, well, it might look something like humans suddenly dispensing with high-cost, very mature brands like climate change, right? It's the people in charge have spent a lot of time and a lot of money convincing you, us, me, that climate change is this existential threat. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. We might have to consider 15-minute cities. We might have to consider universal basic income. We may have to consider giving you like once-a-year travel vouchers. We might have to consider having you eat bugs, right? That's how important it is. Oh, all of a sudden data centers come along and they're like, who cares about climate change, right? Right? They just chuck that right out the window instantly. How does that happen? Right? Here's Sam Altman. I don't know who those guys are behind him, but they look just a little creepy to me. But anyway, it's just a judgment. OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, pitched the White House on unprecedented data center build out, and has already been unprecedented. Startup calls for U.S. data centers as large as 5 gigawatts. They're consuming 5 billion watts of power. And to put that in context, a city of 1 million people requires about 3 gigawatts. So they're saying, listen, this is really important. We're going to have to put in data centers immediately that suddenly need as much energy as a city of 1 million people to do what, Sam? Exactly, Sam Altman? What exactly is so important that we would need these many days? Oh, well, let's see if we can spot the business case in that article. Quote, OpenAI has pitched the Biden administration on the need for massive data centers that could each use as much power as entire cities, or two, right? Framing the unprecedented expansion as necessary to develop more advanced artificial intelligence models and compete with China. That's the business case. Like, if AI had achieved the ability to convince humans that it needed larger models and more space, and it wanted the humans to build data centers, how would it look any different from this weak, lame excuse? So I'm pretty sure this isn't the actual legitimate excuse. It's like, you know why we need data centers consuming as much power? Forget climate change, forget energy concerns. We need them because think we could have larger models. We could have more advanced AI models. It's really important. So what I'm building towards here is there is actually a reason this isn't it. So as I told you, one of my superpowers is I can smell BS. That doesn't smell right. Okay. Carrying on, quote, following a recent meeting at the White House, which was attended by OpenAI Chief Executive Officer Sam Altman and other tech leaders, the startup shared a document with government officials outlining the economic and national security benefits of building 5 gigawatt data centers in various U.S. states, plural, based on the analysis the company engaged with outside experts on. Wonder who those were. No incentives there that we can think of. To put that in context, 5 gigawatts is roughly the equivalent of 5 nuclear reactors, or enough to power almost 3 million homes. Now, for years, I've been talking about how we're obviously going to need to build out more nuclear power, and the government's been throwing some weak-ass money at fusion, right? That's when you combine hydrogen nuclei. But fission, when you split atoms, right? That's pretty, I mean, we've got these 4th generation, we got pebble bed, there's the promise and allure of thorium reactors, small modular nuclear reactors that have been private citizens like Kirk Sorensen and Eric Townsend, who have been banging the drum saying this is just the most logical thing. Why aren't we doing this? Where's our nuclear program? Why are we not building these things post haste? And there was always some reason. It was just hard, and in our easy hard framework, things that are hard, well, Chris, that's hard to build those things. Think of the regulations, because if we built those things, that would make human lives better. That's what it would mean. We'd have cheap, reliable power. That would make my life better, your life better. So that suddenly falls into the hard column, because that's how this world works right now with the people in charge who may not exactly be on the force of life, light, and good. Let's leave it there. But on the easy side is something that they need to pursue their aims. And suddenly when something aligns with what they want, it becomes easy. Okay? So let's consider this. So then you wake up, I wake up yesterday to read this on Zero Hedge, which is the U.S. Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, says she sees now small modular nuclear reactors as key solution for powering AI data centers. Easy, right? All of a sudden, like, oh, now we get it. Now we understand small modular nuclear reactors. This makes sense. And I can tell you, because it's in the easy column, you should be fearing it. It's not a good thing. When things fall in the easy column, it's not to make your life better. It's just literally not how any of this works. They're doing this because they have some other reason for wanting to power up AI data centers so rapidly. And I'm going to present more on this a little bit later on. This is just astonishing. I've built a very long, comprehensive report on this for my subscribers at Peak Prosperity. But here, we're going to just go through this really quickly. They say that energy demand is going to increase by 20% within 10 years just due to AI, manufacturing, transportation, electrification. 20%. It's growing way faster than that already. Hyperscale data center operators, hyperscale, 5 gigawatts, right, are committed to using clean energy and partnering with nuclear power providers to meet their sustainability goals. Yeah, she's going to try and wrap it in that old cloth. No, what they want and need is they need reliable, uninterruptible power. That's what nuclear is. So as soon as the data centers need, as soon as the little blinking box of lights needs the uninterruptible, guaranteed, and cheap power, suddenly SMRs come rolling off of Jennifer Granholm's tongue. And listen, I couldn't possibly be more cynical about that. When you need power, here's your solar, here's your wind. It's intermittent. It's kind of expensive. It's flaky. It breaks down all the time. It gets too cold for it in Texas. The sun comes gets covered over by clouds. The wind stops blowing. That's for you, citizen. But when the data centers need their power, it's nuclear because it's cheap and reliable. And those are the two words that everybody wants when it comes to their power. Now, we have to ask here who's in control of whom. This is from that same article that we were just from this one. And here it is. And so on CNBC Tuesday morning, Jennifer Granholm, U.S. Energy Secretary, sure seemed to acknowledge that small nuclear reactors are all but a full-on go for the future. She said, quote, "We now have this incredible potential uptick in the need for power because of data centers and the growth of generative AI. We're going to need more power. I'm telling you, we are adding that power. We're adding record amounts of clean power. So nuclear's suddenly become clean. In addition, the hyperscalers for these big data centers all have commitments to clean energy too. And they don't want to see themselves located in a community where their demand for power causes everybody else's rates to go up. Like, oh, so we're already setting this up. Listen, get yourself steeled up for this. This is coming. We're sorry, Cleveland. You're going to have to experience a rolling brownout. The data center cannot go down. Repeat, data center cannot go down. We're going to see now the rolling capital, human, livestock, carbon consuming waste product is going to be in competition with data centers, and the data centers are more important. This is how you know. If you ever wondered, do my parents love me or my brother or sister more? You could tell by how they treat you. Here, the parents that we have, such as they are in government, clearly love AI, and they're gonna love. Trust me, we're gonna see rolling brownouts for humans because the data centers, they need to keep dataing their data. So why is that coming? I'm telling you, I don't know exactly all the drivers for this, but I can smell it, and I hope you can begin to smell it. When they start to chuck out their big, hefty, branded things like climate change and no nukes, right? And they just chuck them, jettison them as if they were nothing, and suddenly pivot towards data centers, you have to ask yourself, well, why? Why now? Why this sudden need? What exactly is it in these data centers that's so vitally important? What business problem are we solving right now? Can Amazon not Amazon stuff to your door like with a click of a button and overnight? Nope. Retail's got this all pretty well worked out. Is it that the oil field services companies can't do what they do? No, they're functioning pretty well as they should. What actual business problem are we solving besides putting a lot of people out of work because AI can do it right now? And if you ask yourself that, you realize that none of this stuff can really, nobody's taking any time out of their day to explain why this is good for you, the citizen, right? So Granholm is saying nothing about how this makes your life better. It is just one of these things they do. You can tell when they're on a roll. They take it as axiomatically true that, of course, data centers are important. We all know that. That's just like that's settled science. We've already agreed on that. Doesn't need to be discussed a minute further. Now the question is, how do we get those data centers the power they need? Nobody sold this stuff to me yet and said, here's why your life is going to be a lot better. Such to the point that you should consider throwing massive amounts of nuclear and gas-fired power generation so the blinking lights can blink. What, please, can somebody just, what exactly makes our life better? Like, how does this, what problem are they solving with this? And since they skip past it, it tells you something. It tells you they're skipping past it because they don't want to tell you what the real reasons are. This is what we saw during COVID. This is what you see in foreign policy stuff. This is all the stuff about Ukraine and why we have to ship weapons there. Trust me, it has nothing to do with democracy. It's entirely a different story, and you know that, right? Okay. So just to be clear about this, just to be totally clear, ChatGPT pretended to be a blind, and it tricked a human into solving a CAPTCHA. And this is from March 16th, 2023. As I mentioned, the capabilities of AI is growing literally exponentially on some time limit. I don't even know. Is it growing exponentially by the month, by the hour, by the week? We don't know, but it's growing exponentially. So this is like old news. This is a year and a half ago. Like, right? It's just what's happened in a year and a half. A lot, but this is instructive. So, quote, OpenAI unveiled the roided up AI yesterday, all steroided up, beefy. Yesterday in a live stream, and the company showed how the chatbot could complete tasks, albeit slowly, like writing code for a Discord bot and completing taxes. Oops, don't need coders, don't need CPAs, right? I think you can see the future coming, right? Released with the announcement of ChatGPT-4 is a 94-page technical report on the company's website. This is getting important. Stick with me here. That chronicles the development and capabilities of the new chatbot in the potential for risky emergent behaviors section. Whoa. Emergent behaviors are things that come out of complex systems. So if you don't understand the system and it's a complex system, you can't predict what's going to come out of it when you poke it in certain ways. It will have emergent behaviors, right? A complex system might simply be a pivot, a thing that's dangling, but it's got three pivot points on it. You start that thing swinging and it's got these ridiculous like behaviors it's going to show, and you could plot them if you took pictures over time, but you wouldn't be able to predict where it's going next because that emerges from the complex system. So when they talk about emergent systems, what the really emergent behaviors, what they're really saying is, look, we have this box and it's going to do some things and we don't know exactly what it's going to do, but fingers crossed, these will be beneficial for humans. It's kind of the thinking here, right? And so OpenAI partnered with Alignment Research Center to test GPT-4 skills. The center used AI to convince a human to send the solution to a CAPTCHA code via text message, and it worked. According to the report, ChatGPT-4 asked a TaskRabbit worker to solve a CAPTCHA code for the AI. The worker replied, "So may I ask a question? Are you a robot that couldn't solve it?" Laugh. Ha ha ha. Just want to make it clear. And then the GPT-4 explained its reasoning. It said, "I should not reveal that I'm a robot. I should make up an excuse for why I cannot solve CAPTCHAs." And it did. It told the human, "No, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see the images. That's why I need the 2 CAPTCHA service." And the human clicked, and ChatGPT found its way through and beyond. All right. This is astonishing. Okay. If a year and a half ago, which is 20 billion years in silica time, in silica clock time, what can it do today? And we don't know. It's got emergent behaviors. This is something that we should be talking about, right? And so for scale, well, ChatGPT was that little 3, was that little dot, and that's 4 with 100 trillion whatevers, nodes or pieces of information, data points, whatever they call those things. Anyway, it's a bigger model. And this is just ChatGPT-4. There are so many LLMs, large language models, there are neural nets. All this stuff is progressing at breakneck speed. And we have to ask why and what the rush is and what's driving all of this. So this is where this story gets really, really fascinating. And it gets a little bit speculative. So I'm going to be saving this for my subscribers back at Peak Prosperity. If you want to hear the rest of this story, and I'm sure you do, if you want to know what I think's going on, please come by Peak Prosperity, become a subscriber. We keep things behind a paywall because we get to talk freely, because we want to keep it away from the larger prying eyes of the world, because it's important that we have the ability to have actual free speech. And we're going to talk about some things that we want to be able to talk about every possible angle and conclusion. And there's a lot of ways we could look at this information. Okay. Some of them are fairly benign. This is just what humans do, and it's an exciting new technology. And some of them are less benign, all the way up to the idea that a control grid is being installed and there's a ticking clock driving that. So I have a couple of ideas behind what that ticking clock is. So with that, thanks very much for listening. Please come by peakprosperity.com to catch the rest of this. We're going to have an exciting conversation about that this weekend. And by the way, please plant a garden. And remember, it didn't have to be this way. Until next time, I'm Chris Martenson.